Hello and welcome to Uncle Matt's Online Academy. Today we have basic science and we want to discuss crude oil refining and petrochemical products. Crude oil refining and petrochemical products. In a previous lesson, we introduced crude oil and petrochemicals, and we talked about the history of crude oil formation, the location of crude oil in Nigeria, and the places crude oil are, where crude oil is refined in Nigeria. We mentioned the states and the names of the refineries that we have in Nigeria. We also talked briefly about petrochemicals and the refining process. So today our topic is or centers on crude oil refining and the petrochemical products. That means that we are going to go into details with the refining process and then the petrochemical products. Like I said in a previous lesson, that refining crude oil means processing it to get useful products from the crude oil. When we extract crude oil from the ground in a process we call mining. Mining is the process of extracting the crude oil under the ground. Like we said in the previous lesson, that crude oil is located beneath the ground, under the ground. Petrochemical engineers, they have to dig the ground in order to locate the crude oil under the ground, and then they will extract it or mine it. When they mine the crude oil, it is always a dark, solid object or dark solid matter, which is almost of no use. You cannot use it like that to do anything. So they process it to get useful products like petrol, like kerosene, like asphalt, and other products from it. The process of processing it to get those products is what we call refining or refining of crude oil. So, refining of crude oil means the process or the method of processing crude oil to get useful products from it. The process of refining involves two major activities or two major processes. There is one we call onshore process and another one we call offshore process, or onshore activities and offshore activities. Onshore activity, onshore process or activity, and offshore process or activity. When we are talking about onshore process, onshore means within the or around an ocean. This crude oil is always extracted from a water area, like an ocean. They will dig through an ocean to get the crude oil, or a water area, an area where there is either an ocean or river or something like that. So when they dig through it, and of course you know that digging deep into the ground to get the crude oil, even if it is not in an ocean, you will surely encounter water there. So the whole place must always be a kind of a waterlogged place. So the activities that are done within the place of mining the oil, they are called onshore activities. The activities that are done under the ground, because the crude oil is mined under the ground. So maybe inside the ocean or just down the ground, the activities that are done there, they are called onshore process. Within the whole onshore process, while other activities that are done outside the hole or outside the ocean where the oil is extracted, they are called offshore process. So the major activity that is done in the onshore process is the mining of the oil, extracting the oil from the ground. You have to go down to the ground or to the hole or the ocean for you to extract the oil. So that process of extracting it is what we call mining, and that mining is done under the ground. So that mining process or extracting it from the ground is an onshore process. Why offshore process is the process or activities such as the ones that are done in refineries. Sometimes the place of mining or extracting the oil is always far away from the place of refining it. Like we have a refinery in Kaduna, but there is no place we extract or mine oil in Kaduna. You don't mine oil in Kaduna, but we refine it in Kaduna. So the place of refining it is very far from the place of mining it. That activity that is done outside the hole or outside the place of extracting the oil is called offshore process. So the activities within the refineries are all called offshore process in the refining of crude oil. So I believe you've understood the difference between onshore process and offshore process. The ones that are done within the holes or within the ocean area where the oil is extracted, and the ones that are done outside the ocean area or outside the water area, that are the ones that are called offshore process. Now we also want to look at the refining process. In refining the oil in the refineries, like I said in the previous lesson, that the refining process involves a method we call fractional distillation. The process of refining the oil, it is called fractional distillation. Fractional distillation. And fractional distillation involves heating the crude oil. When it gets to certain temperature, different components of the crude oil will begin to separate, and each of the components separates at different temperature. The petrochemical engineers or the people that work in the refinery, they all know the temperature that each of the components or each of the products separates. I also said in the previous lesson that each of the components is called a fraction. So petrol is a fraction, kerosene is a fraction, diesel is a fraction of crude oil. So they know the temperature that each of the fractions comes out. They know the temperature that it will reach, that anything that is coming out at that particular temperature is petrol. Another temperature that it will that another thing that is coming out from that place is crescent. So they know the temperature range for all the fractions. So in fractional distillation, it involves heating of the oil, crude oil, to get these different fractions of crude oil. It is a method of separation of mixture, and like we said also in the previous lesson, that crude oil is a mixture. A mixture is two or more substances that combine together and do not form a new product. So crude oil is a mixture, and we can separate it using a mixture separating method called fractional distillation. So that is about the process of distillating crude oil. We say that the process is called fractional distillation. Now we want to look at the meaning of petrochemicals. When the useful products from this crude oil are extracted or refined, are gotten from the crude oil after refining, there are other products that are heavy, and these people that work in refineries, they don't like to throw away any of the products away. So what they do is that the ones that look like they are not useful, they break them down again to get simpler or very simple components that we now call petrochemicals. These are chemicals that are gotten by breaking petroleum products or cracking. Breaking of petrochemical products that are heavy into simpler ones are called, or is called, cracking. So the ones that look like they are no more useful, processing them to get simpler products that you can use to produce other products is called cracking. We break the heavy ones to get simple ones. The simple products you can get after breaking these heavy ones include toluene. There's a chemical we call toluene. There's one we call benzene. There's one we call ethene, and so many others, even ethanol, propanol. So the petrochemicals, they include toluene, benzene, propanol, ethene, ethanol, and many others. Now we use these petrochemicals to make what we now call petrochemical products, like plastic, like nylon, and artificial rubber. Our nylon is, some nylon are called polyethylene. It is from this ethylene, when you combine many ethylene, we call it polyethylene. So the products that are made with this ethylene, they are called polyethylene product. That is our bag, our nylon that we call polyethylene. We also use toluene to produce other products. We use toluene to produce plastic. We use benzene to produce insecticides or pesticides. And we know our ethanol, we use it in making alcoholic products. And there is also one we call paraffin that we use in producing jelly for our creams, and propanol that we also use in making other products. So any product that is made using these products that are produced, or these petrochemicals that are produced from the petroleum crude oil. They are called petrochemical products. So this is all about the refining of crude oil and petrochemical products, and I believe the lesson is very easy. Thank you.